What looks easy, peasy lemon squeezy, but is actually difficult, difficult lemon difficult? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Work. I'm a lawyer and had a client call saying she needs a help with a merger, but don't worry, it's super easy peasy lemon squeezy. That project took 6 months and I almost had a breakdown. She didn't understand why the bill was so high since it was so easy. Story 2. Dancing. I wouldn't say it looks easy, but when I see people do it, they're so good at it and it flows so well it looks easy. But damn, I just cannot get my body to do anything more than a bop and maybe some stupid arm moves. I'm 25 and dance like a 50-year-old at a reunion. Dancers are so delicate and make it look so easy, it's honestly amazing. It's just hilarious when I try to do literally anything and fail horribly. Story 3. Street names. Everyone thinks it's great fun and likes to offer suggestions, but every tree, lake, and other natural feature has at least a dozen variations, which you can't repeat for emergency service reasons. That, and you get cities which want a street name change anytime the road changes direction regardless of a logical breakpoint like an intersection. Story 4. Pretty much anything that a professional does, they make it look easy because it's their job. Throw a football 65 yards accurately? Psh, simple, if you're an elite athlete. Cut open a chest cavity to fix a few coronary arteries? It's just another day at the office for a surgeon. Frame up a structural wall within a 2,000 square feet house? Just a bunch of wood and nails is all you need. Make crowded teeth perfectly aligned? Surely it's just a matter of wearing trays 1 through 55. Voila, it's all straight. In reality, each of these tasks takes someone who trained for years to visualize the problem, solve it, and execute it to the T. It looks easy because they practiced the hell out of it. Story 5. Maintaining friendships from high school, college after you graduate. People get so busy with work and starting their own families that friendships get put on the back burner. You stop talking to someone for a few months. Then it suddenly hits you that you're no longer friends with the person. Story 6. I use a wheelchair, and people usually don't believe me when I say that getting around can be difficult, because many of them think that pushing a wheelchair is easy. They literally tell me this. The thing is, when you use a wheelchair all day and it is basically your only means of transportation, it looks more natural. This becomes a problem when I point out accessibility problems. They often don't believe me because they see how I can navigate and assume that it's easy, just because *I* make it look easy. Story 7. Folding fitted sheets. I've watched instructional videos that make it look so easy, but I always just end up with a crumpled up mess, and that's how it gets put away. Story 8. Finding a career you'll want to go to every day that won't crush your soul. Remember when you were young and teachers told you that you could be whatever you wanted to be? Yeah, not so realistic when you want to pay bills and maybe have a little beer money too. I didn't go to college and struggle with the thought of not being able to have a lateral career move without a degree, but then I see my friends absolutely floundering with their student loan payments and think maybe I don't have it so bad after all. Story 9. Beekeeping. You see videos of these old dudes in their veils and beekeeping suits, and it makes it seem so relaxing and easy. Turns out that bees aren't so good at finding enough food on their own, and they can get sick really easy, and in the winter they can mold. Have you ever seen moldy bees? Sometimes they're not even dead. It's still worth it though. Edit. Thank you so much, fellow beekeepers. I didn't have time to answer a lot of the questions, and in looking through the questions, I saw a wonderful, beautiful community bringing awareness and knowledge. Also, obligatory thank you for the gold. I'm glad my plight with bees has garnered so much attention, and I really appreciate the insightful knowledge that is being shared here. Story 10. Socializing with people. I have severe social anxiety, and even small interactions with strangers, and even some people I've known for a while are really hard for me. I don't hate people or dislike being around them, but I'm just awful at keeping conversations going or initiating them. Outgoing people make it look very easy. For me, it is not. Story 11. Playing an instrument. Have played most percussion instruments, trumpet, some baritone, and was first chair tuba sousaphone for 4 years, and difficulty varies based on instrument and physical attributes. Story 12. Selling panties online. I've seen a couple posts about how someone could exploit desperate dudes on Craigslist by buying women's panties, spritzing them with perfume, and then selling them online. Were it so easy? Nowadays, buyers want to see photos of a real woman in the exact pair they'll be buying, or proof in the form of being Panty Trust certified. They'll want extras or special requests for their order, plenty of fetishes to go around, and the vast majority of them will drop off the face of the earth when it comes time to actually pay. You'll have to sift through hundreds of responses to your ad, knowing most of them will be time wasters just trying to get a little dirty talk or some photos. My advice? Don't bother. Leave it to the cam girls who make some side cash off selling their panties, because there's always going to be someone willing to go a step further than you, and they will be the one to make the sale. Story 13, programming. It's like Lego sets. Anyone can follow the instructions and make the Millennium Falcon. But it's a whole different ball game when you're given a pile of assorted blocks and someone says, okay now, recreate the Taj Mahal, but the client wants it to look like Big Ben. It also needs to be able to interlock with the Sphinx, the Great Wall, the Eiffel Tower, and the Maozhong Temple to create a super monument. Yes, I know the Maozhong Temple hasn't been designed yet, just make some good guesses. We can add parts to it once we know what we need. Story 14. Writing a long story. I'm about to finish wrapping up my first ever seriously long-form piece of writing. It's going to about 160K all told. You may think to yourself, that's not too long. I can read a book that length in an afternoon. Or, I can knock that out in a month or two just writing a couple thousand words a day. Or, you just tell a story and it all leaps out fully formed. And you'd be wrong. Writing, as enjoyable as it can be for author and audience, is a lot of work you just don't see. Yeah, you see the finished product, but what you don't see are things like drafts, discarded scenes, variant writings, conversations with editors, free writing exercises, and all the just sheer ideas that come up and don't make it. I'd estimate I have easily spent more than 1 million words behind the scenes making this project happen. It sounds easy. You have a plot and you make it happen, starting at page 1 and do through to the back cover. A lot of my writing is somewhat out of order. Starting from page 1 is honestly a snooze fest and chore. I don't want to read the part of the fantasy story that's farm boy baling hay, and nobody really likes that part either unless they're a medievalist and the book goes full Tolkien about how that works. I've probably deleted 75% of all the words I've ever spawned for the product. Beyond spewing words, there's tone to mind, characters to track, continuity, foreshadowing, building, managing tension, avoiding forcing cliches or stupidity, making imagery, dialogue that's nice to read, and also you can imagine being spoken. And this has to all be managed under a word count that's enough for your reader to get the point without boring them or wearing your fingers to nubs. Want to know how long it's taken me to write this thing? 2 years. I've loved it, but hot damn, it was way harder than it looks when you just see the finished product and can just think I sat down one day and make it all come to life without complication. Writing a novel-length piece of fiction is tough. I plan to do more, but I no longer have the idea I'll be able to just pump out a piece every couple months, like clockwork at a couple thousand words a day. Story 15. Marriage. I think many people believe that they will be romantically in love with the person they are marrying. In many ways you do, but most with long, successful marriages will tell you it takes work to make a marriage last a lifetime. That level of commitment is hard to maintain. The rewards are enormous, and you'll never be closer to another human if you're doing it right. My wife and I just celebrated our 40th, and we've known each other for more than 45 years, planning on being together till end. Story 16. Making an actual quality meme. Inside jokes are normally easy, and memes for content-specific subs is really easy, but making original content for a wider audience, or memes for example, then it feels almost impossible to make content that will be widely liked. Story 17. Being a server. I worked in many different front-of-the-house positions in restaurants and bars, including G-Ming and running cocktail programs. Wholly without the bar to protect you from the herd, you're just hanging in the open trying to get a rhythm that will cover the most ground and give the most service. I've never made it a serving shift without forgetting to enter in an important part of an order. Bartending is all about managing interactions and throughput. Serving is about getting treated like your name is boy and trying to balance the needs of your customers with the amount of them and the throughput of the kitchen that you do not have up to the minute information on. Story 18. Retail work. Any customer service-based job sucks, but I think retail tops it. Most McDonald's at least have a good amount of staff for rush hour, in my experience, whereas in retail you still regularly go through the busiest times with nowhere near enough staff. You also have to put up with BS all the time. Lori turns up 4 hours early with the delivery. Tills crash during a busy time. You waste 10 minutes explaining to someone why the deal on last week is not on this week, the weekly deal, etc. What do you mean you want me to keep the tags on? So you want all the alarms in the shops to go on and for you to have to damage the product to get it off. I am telling you the button is not working. Here, let me show you me clearly pressing the button marked specific coupon and it not working. How is it my fault? I am a history student, not till engineer. No, there is not an override. I cannot scan your points card and give you points. After you paid, there is now nothing on the system and it says, next customer, please. The customer is not always right, and people that say that should go work Christmas in retail, then trying saying that. Many rant over, but there is plenty more. Edit. I want to clarify this as many people in the comments were unhappy with the McDonald's part. I stand by what I said. It is from the experiences I have had and what many of my friends that have worked there have fed back to me. Ones that have done both said retail was also worse to me. This is my opinion. It may be different in your area or it may not, but this is what it is like in my area. Story 19, Science. There's a huge difference between being a scientist and being a fan of science. Both are important, but they aren't the same. A lot of people take a science class or start following a science-based Facebook/Twitter/subreddit and only see the successes. Science is a critical, thought-heavy endeavor that requires equal parts patience, smarts, and luck. As a researcher doing basic science, you're going to have 90% negative data. For every scientific publication you see, there are months or even years of negative data behind it. The stuff that science fans and cheerleaders share on Facebook from pages like I Love Science is distilled from the frustrations and efforts of scientists that probably drink heavily. Story 20. Telling the people closest to you that you're not okay and that you need help. You think about it, and you play it out in your head, then your stupid brain takes the worst possible outcome that could happen if you reached out and puts it front and center on repeat. Any legitimate reaction or discussion is then hidden behind the thought of being ridiculed for weakness, mockingly point out your flaws, minimizing the situation, etc. So then you hide it, you fake it, and just cruise through the day on autopilot until a week or two passes by and you consider it again. You repeat the cycle, continuously beating yourself up in your own head. If you're strong enough, you deal with it for years, decades even. If you're not, it starts to manifest into the real world and starts to affect how you behave and how you interact with the world and others. Maybe you start to isolate yourself, fearing that the next conversation you have, you might slip and say something that will let the cat out of the bag. You may even become hostile or domineering to people because that level of interaction is the easiest kind to get. Or maybe it's just fun. Or in the worst case, you turn to different substances to just make it go away for a while. You go through these motions over and over and over and over again, but you just end up back at the beginning, thinking about how all the friends you went to school with are now married with kids and are buying their first homes, or are now really finding their rhythm with their careers and are starting to climb the ladders in their respective fields. Maybe both. While you sit here alone on Reddit, putting thoughts that you've had for months into text, kind of hoping that it gets buried, all because you couldn't find a way to say, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. Story 21. Letting go. No, you won't just switch it off. You won't just stop it when you want. You won't stop craving for it. You won't stop missing it. You'll always get yourself almost back to it because you've made a habit to do it so many times daily that your brain hardly ever registers when you're consciously with it. I'm sure you guys understand. It could be. It could be a toxic relationship. It could be a hobby that you just can't see yourself not ever stop practicing because of how much joy it brings to you, like gaming or handicrafts, or even your very job, but you must stop it because of other, more important and more immediate reasons. It hardly matters what is it about, and yet switching it off of your life will always be hard. If you must let it go, against all odds, against your own wishes, then be strong. You'll probably never be prepared for it, no matter how much you steel yourself. But you can hang on. Story 22. Self-publishing a book. Okay, it's easy to just toss some words on a page, upload it to Amazon, and get it published. But actually getting people to buy your book once it's out there is insanely hard. It doesn't matter how good your book is. Nobody knows who you are, so there's no reason for them to click buy on your book. You need to do everything you can to promote it yourself, which can include paying out of your own pocket for ads that may or may not help. Source. I self-published a novel, stumbled at the promote it step, and had dismal sales. Now I have the sequel written and awaiting beta readers. I'm going to need to try the whole promote myself thing again and hope I have better luck. Story 23. Being a good dad is tough. I have an 18-month-old daughter and my wife is expecting. I get up for work and 12 hours later I'm back at home, and almost as soon as I walk through the door, I'm on dad duty. Trying to entertain my daughter, give my wife some time to relax, sort out dinner, clean the house. All these things need to be done, and time to do them doesn't exist. Then there's Tim to exercise, which I haven't, spend quality time with the wife, and then hobbies. I'm a gamer. It's a thankless job at times, but man, if my daughter's hugs don't just melt me every time. The real heroes are the single parents and those with kids with disabilities. You have strength beyond comprehension. Story 24. Rehab and sobriety. I always thought it'd be easy, but the first week was hell. I went in for alcoholism and I couldn't bathe myself. I was so sick those first few days. The next 7 weeks were basically training myself in self-control and how to accept my addiction. I'm 1 year and 7 months clean, and out of the 20 people I met in the program, 10 relapsed, and 2 of the relapses were fatal overdoses. Story 25. Being a kid. You can't choose what to eat. You can't just find night shift work if you aren't a morning person. You can't relax after school because you go home with stacks of homework every day. You have asshole peers that you're forced to be around every day. You're always under supervision, and nobody takes you seriously. Don't get me wrong, it's full of fun times and I still miss it. But we take adult life for granted sometimes. Story 26. Sheep shearing. They hate you. They weigh 100 to 200 pounds. Unwashed wool is kind of nasty. Greasy from lanolin, has burrs in it, dirt, often some poop even in the best conditions. They are bumpy. The shears will cut them if you fuck up. You will feel very bad if you fuck up. Your back will feel very bad even if you don't fuck up. The YouTube videos never do it justice. Story 27. Adulting. You're supposed to know how to take care of a full-grown adult yourself. A house or apartment, maybe a pet, your plants. Buy and cook your own food. Clean after yourself. Not be late to work. Make your own medical appointments. Buy phone gas. Be responsible. Don't spend too much. And if you have the time after all of this, keep friendships alive. All of this after an 18-year-old trial you didn't ask for, but now has to start paying for the real thing. Truth is, adults are still teenagers bullshitting confidence through life. Story 28. Being a chef. A great many students starting out in the school I'm about to graduate from likely think that you can take your sweet time in this field. You can't. Everything must be prepped before service starts. At the height of a dinner rush, everyone is going batshit crazy running around making orders and food is flying out the window. This lasts for hours on a daily basis. It's a sweaty, thankless, brutal career. I wish those students and other aspiring chefs the best. Story 29. Interpreting a song in ASL. People think that if you follow those videos made by awkward college students or look up each word in ASL and string it together in English grammar, that's it. Nope. Not only do you enter a socio-political battlefield when you talk about interpreting music, you have to completely reinvent the song. No two interpretations are ever the same because you are interpreting the concept, not the vocabulary. When you see an interpreter at a concert, odds are they've been rehearsing with the band for more than a month, if they're any good. Music interpreting is a very specialized kind of interpreting. It takes a lot of work. And after all is said and done, only about 10% of the deaf community really enjoys it. Story 30. Duolingo's language learning has done this to language learning in general. Don't get me wrong, I think Duolingo is great and everyone should try it out. That said, doing a language tree on Duolingo makes it seem like you've mastered a language, at least in your head. You can write sentences and read pretty much any intermediate advanced text in the given language. Actually applying the language, though, is one of the most excruciating, time-consuming things, and Duolingo and finishing a tree online is not the same as applying it. Source: Learning German on Duolingo. Story 31. Making any kind of physical object. Oh, just make this shape out of clay. Fingerprints and surface inconsistencies everywhere. Oh, just paint it. Brush strokes are visible. Paint's having bonding issues with the material you're trying to paint. Oh, just attach thing A to thing B. Gotta find the right glue first, and if it isn't super quick drying, find a way to clamp them together, and watch out for squeeze out. As a person who makes things as a hobby using a wide array of mediums and techniques, it's never ever as simple as it seems in your head. There are always little steps missing when you have the big picture, and little skills you lack when applying a new technique. Of course you get better with practice, but when you aren't working in a consistent material or process, you are constantly in a state of practicing new skills, tools, and materials. Story 32. Singing. No joke. Singing, like, you've got to keep a good posture and you've got to keep your hands to your sides. Other thing is that when you're trying to do solos, IDK if it's just so I'm going to guess that other people have to deal with this, your voice cracks. I'm sorry, but this is true for me. Story 33. I watched a YouTube video recently about the mites and how to manage the problem. It was so fascinating watching the bees returning to the hive and walk through a gauntlet of bees that inspect the incoming bees for mites. They remove the mites that latch onto the bees when they are in the field. Once a mite is removed from a bee, the inspector bee rips the limbs and sometimes head from the mite's body. They toss the mite down into hive so that they fall to the bottom of the hive, dead or alive, without the ability to move. So badass. I'm just interested in bees but have little knowledge or experience. Story 34. Glass blowing. Recently took a class with my mom, and not only is the big stuff, like walking around with a wad of scorching hot glass goo on the end of a big metal rod, difficult, but the small stuff like rolling the molten glass in color and shaping and sculpting it and blowing it and heating it and reheating it and reheating it is too. Story 35, riding a horse. It's in general supposed to look like you're not doing anything, but actually you're using every muscle in your body for different stuff simultaneously, and your body is in an unnatural position while doing so. Some muscles are being used for balance, dome giving aids and cues to the horse, etc. It actually takes years to learn to do it in a way that you make it look easy and like you're not doing anything. Story 36, making decorated sugar cookies. They show these quick tutorials all over Facebook, but the reality is hours of baking, making the icing, decorating, waiting hours for them to dry, so you can add in new layers, more waiting for dry time. One order can easily take me 3 days from start to finish. Story 37, insurance. You go online, provide your information, and a quote is provided in seconds. Truth is, what property form are they using? Is there a liability deductible? Is it per occurrence or per claim? What version of additional insured endorsement do they provide? Is there a charge? Most people click a few buttons or tell their insurance agent as little as possible and think that every insurance is the same. It isn't. When I ask a person what they think a good insurance policy is, the resounding answer is cheap. The only time I talk to people interested in the actual coverage are people who were unfortunate enough to think that insurance is easy peasy lemon squeezy, and they got burned by some sneaky exclusion. Millennials don't own much yet, but that's going to change in the next 20 years. I don't know how to get these kids to understand that you can't trust a frickin' lizard or some price gun to actually do their jobs. Unlike going to a dentist or a lawyer, consultation with an insurance professional is always free. If you own anything at all, if you have people you love and want to take care of, then talk to a professional at the very least. Story 38. Kinky stuff around impact play like whips and chains. I don't know much about it except I thought it was just whipping and making your partner in pain. Until I joined this workshop and it was a lot harder than it looked, pun intended. Don't think it's for me, but people were breaking it all down from using the right implements, whips, canes, even household items like wooden spoons, to technique, to how you engage vocally, and even aftercare. Story 39, being a chef. You have to guess at what people will like based on your own tastes, and it better be right. Nothing ever goes as planned, so you have to constantly improvise on the spot. You have to work crazy hours with no holidays, birthdays, nights, or weekends off. You don't get regular breaks, and there's no such thing as sitting down. Believe it or not, you eat like crap. You can do 100 things perfectly and never hear a word, but screw up one plate and you'll never hear the end of it. Oh, and nobody respects you and they think your job is easy. Story 40, making friends as an adult. I only speak to one friend from school, and that is only a few times a year. I've made work friends and college friends, but they never lasted once we'd left work college. The place I'm at now, I'm friendly with people, but no one wants to hang out with me after work. If it wasn't for my sisters, I'd be very lonely. I just don't know how to make adult friends. It baffles me how people do it. Story 41, keeping friends when you move. I haven't when moved. I'm just going to a different high school, and one of my best friends hasn't talked to me, even when I make an effort. He just doesn't want to talk anymore, and he lives less than a mile away. Story 42, making bread and other bread-type goods. You make dough and bake it right. No, I'm too lazy to explain the entire process, but to make a single loaf of bread, it takes about 70 minutes, and that doesn't include the necessary preparations beforehand and calculating how much of this and that you need. The mixed dough also goes through 6 different processes in order to be bake ready. Story 43, changing water pump or ABS sensor on a nearly 30 years old BMW that provably left the factory with those parts 500 kms before. You just screw out some bolts and it should pull out by hand. I literally had to chip and drill those fuckers out because the 2 meters long cheater bar wouldn't move it a bit. Story 44. Recalling something? I bet you can't say eyes color of all your friends. Or recall some cool image from video game or film like Doomslayer's armor or Joker from The Dark Knight and then try to draw it. You will most likely remember some details, but most of the time, you will be filling blanks with basic things you think could be there. Yet it seemed so clear in your head, didn't it? Story 45. Being an effective teacher. I was a college prof for about 9 years and then moved and shifted to teaching high school. It is far more difficult. The amount of planning and work that goes into leading teenagers through learning in various ways and keeping them engaged while checking for understanding and managing behavior for 90 minutes is quite a task. There are some who just talk and have the kids take or fill in notes, and that's not teaching. Provoking curiosity and guiding without simply reciting facts takes a lot of planning and energy. Side note of small validation. I once went to the golf driving range with some friends. I was teaching one of them how to hit a golf ball. She had never played. I've been playing for 25 years. I moved away and then later she lamented that no one knew how to teach her. Her husband and our other friend tried, but didn't know how to limit the amount of info thrown at her at one time, or what order to explain things, or some simply analogies for understanding. The list goes on, but it made me smile. Story 46. Tying knots, especially under pressure. I've been doing them through scouting for 10 years and had to teach a kid how to do it. And it took a couple weeks for him to memorize how to use the knot. But then when we had him lash a frame together to help with a shelter to get all out stuff out of the pouring rain, he couldn't do it because of the stress. But a little bit of guidance, and we were good. Story 47. Writing a story about yourself. It seems like it would be easy. You know all the facts, details, times, your thoughts, your feelings. Everyone has a unique story in some way. You fluently speak the language in which you would tell the story. Yet actually sitting down and going, I think I will write about myself, it is tremendously difficult. Hard to know where to start, where to end, and what the point would be. It's oddly difficult to just remember things all of the sudden. It's difficult, lemon difficult. Story 48 /waiting/customer service. Yeah, it's easy to get right, but it's even easier to get wrong. Piece, it's hard work, much harder than it job, but I much preferred it. Edit. There is always loads of talk about why does Cisco's dad, Star Trek DS9, run a restaurant if there's no money in it. It's because cooking for people is one of our most basic enjoyments. Story 49, taking a good photo. 5+ years in, taking photos every day, all day, dragging a camera around with me everywhere I go, 500 rolls of film in, setting up my own dark room, getting a pro digital camera with pro lenses, learning Photoshop and other Adobe stuff, and I feel that I can take a decent photo. I have the innate skill, I'm comfortable with my equipment, and I understand the theory, but there are so many unquantifiable things in a good photo. Story 50, figuring out the opposite of easy peasy lemon squeezy. My first thought was to criticize you because difficult, lemon difficult seemed like a missed opportunity, maybe even lazy. But 10 minutes later, I've still got nothing better. Story 51, walking huskies. Those dogs pull hard, especially if they are former sled dogs. Take my husky, for example. We'll see families with huskies walking their dogs, no problem. It looks so easy. Then you walk your own husky and the husky just goes, let's go to Alaska D, and you can't do nothing to stop this orange bullet. Sorry for sucky format on mobile. Story 52. Hitting a baseball at MLB speeds. On TV, the camera angle is behind the pitcher, so the ball appears slow. Until you've had one buzz by you at 90+ MEF, you don't realize how fast it is. Combine that with you swinging a bat that goes even faster, and the fact that in order to hit it, the ball and bat have to cross the same horizontal and vertical plane at the same exact millisecond. It makes it damn near impossible for the normal human to do without years of training and being taught how, and even then most are only capable of hitting one, 2 times out of 10 attempts at it. Story 53. Pen spinning. I started because I was always watching my boyfriend do all these beautiful pen spinning tricks, and he made it look so flawless and simple and never dropped the pen. Then he started to teach me and my hands wouldn't do what I wanted, and I was constantly throwing the spinning pen across the room. God, it requires years of practice to get to the level he's at, and he makes it look so easy. Story 54. Braiding your hair. Growing up, I always saw my sister with really cool hairstyles, and after high school, I started growing my hair with plans to do it every day in all sorts of different styles. 4 years later, and my hair longer than hers now, and I have never left the house with my hair down because braiding is so damn hard, especially with curly, wavy hair. Story 55. My job. I'm fairly young and was fortunate enough to snag a pretty well-paying career. Some of my friends and family like to gawk at the fact that I have nice things and don't really to worry much about money. The kicker is that my job is actually very difficult, mentally and physically, whether it's the hours or environmental factors. It's a daily struggle that can really wear you down. You never really get to feel relaxed. All they see is the outcome and not what goes into it. Just remember, those who might have it all might have less than you think. Story 56. Haven't read further enough to find it, but writing. In theory, all you have to do is be good enough at a language, your birth one perhaps, and then just put words into sentences and press post. But nay, this hard sometimes. Some days you're writing like you're about to die if you stop right that second. And other days, you're staring at a blank Word document, questioning your entire existence, and wondering if you can even call yourself a writer after not touching a keyboard or pen for a month. And then there's that one lovely aspect of us where we have 50 ideas pushed aside to write this one idea involving a broken arm and neon lights. Story 57, I'm Malaysian. And we have this one food called roti canai, which is basically kind of like flat pancake bread thing. And I used to think it's easy to make because they sell it very cheap at restaurants and stalls. Turns out, no, it's not just flour and SMTG as dumb me had thought. Story 58. Been a soccer goalkeeper for many years at this point. Those who don't play only see it as standing there doing nothing, which to a degree they can be correct, until they learn the intricacies of positioning, technique, and quite frankly, self-sacrifice. Covering an 8x24 net takes years of proper training and development of basic instincts, reflexes, and just not giving a damn about diving around and hitting the ground when you completely sell out for a shot. Story 59. Someone said on here losing weight. Well, for people like me who are really skinny, gaining weight is difficult. I eat so much all the time. I snack, eat many meals, and can never gain weight. People complain when I tell them, though. It's not nice being a 5'8" dude who can't even find pants that fit because I'm too skinny. Story 60. Same with following your passion. Even if you have some free time and some sort of income to drop everything and follow that dream job, I have no idea what my passion is. Like, I do not have particular skills that match my interests. I love gaming, but I am a pretty average gamer. I can 100% say that I won't be a successful Twitch streamer or pull out a job in game development. And my interests are pretty boring, like watching movies, reading books, and watching content on my phone. So every work I take is boring to me. I tried filmmaking, sales, some regular office work, online sales, and hated every one of them. I know there is something for me, but I find it hard to follow your passion when you don't know what the passion is. Story 61. Starting a fire with primitive tools. I did manage to lodge several large splinters a few inches into my hand at least, and smelled smoke but no embers. It is really hard. It looks so easy when somebody else does it, but it actually requires precision, strength, stamina, and patience all at once. Story 62. Carnival games. I mean, technically the whole point of them is to look easy, when in actuality they're extremely difficult, but still, games like the ring toss, rope ladder, or even basketball, they narrow the diameter of the hoop and move it back, usually by about a foot, can seem incredibly simplistic when really it's the exact opposite. Story 63. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad. I don't want your damn lemons. What am I supposed to do with these? Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give you lemons. Do you know who you are? You're the man who's going to burn life's house down. With the lemons. You're going to get your engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns life's house down. Story 64. Coming to terms with your own age. That age-old bit about realizing your decade of reverence was 20 years ago and not 10. Yet I'm in my 30s, still watching anime and playing video games. Wouldn't have it any other way. Man-child status be damned, I know what I love, who I love, and I love myself, so not changing anytime soon. Story 65. Working out. You get to the gym, and you're like, well, what do I do now? I feel like gyms should have a get started with these books that give you workouts and how to do reps, change intensity, go to a different thing, then come back. Alterations levels, as well as technique for things you might not think need technique, like running, biking, and rowing. Story 66. Improvising music. I play jazz, saxophone. And when I learn to improvise, everyone tells me, but that's so easy. Just play random notes at a random rhythm. Well, no. You have to play notes that go with the harmony playing in the background. There are so many different styles and a lot of must-dos and must-nots. So if someone you know is learning to improvise, then tell them good job. Story 67. How about the will to just stay alive? All jokes aside, living is really hard to do. You get brought into a world you're not sure how it works in the beginning, and as you grow, slowly get more and more aware of how it all is. You have to pay bills and make money and stiff to live a life you were just graciously given. I mean, think about it. It's not easy. Story 68. Being consistent at something. You can imagine something and emotionally be so obsessed with achieving that. As a wave of motivation hits you and you say to yourself, I'm going to make it happen. You work in that direction for the first time. You feel confident, and in your mind, you are already there. But being persistent at that task, regardless of how you feel that day, is just very easy to imagine and very hard to actually execute. Story 69, working in a call center. I got hired for an ISP. Thought it was going to be a breeze. You just read a script and get paid $15 an hour plus free cable, internet, and phone. I went through 3 of the 5 weeks of training. The last 2 weeks were taking actual calls with a veteran employee, listening in to give pointers. After my first day of calls, I quit because I quickly realized that it was not for me. Got cursed out a ton, and loads of people who barely spoke English. So they'd get upset because of the language barrier plus not understanding tech. Story 70, immigrating to America. The amount of effort, learning, and documentation filling/gathering and qualification required, and tabs needed to be kept on different stages of the process. The thousands of dollars in fees. The years upon years of time and stress it takes. Not knowing whether you'll be approved or denied because everything is down to the officer's discretion. Officers visiting your home to make sure you're legit. It's difficult. And it's not exclusive to America either. Most advanced countries are equally as difficult to immigrate to, if not more difficult. Story 71 stand-up. Everyone who's mildly funny because they make their buddies laugh watches and goes, yeah, I could do that. It's a whole different lemon when the light's in your face and you have a room full of people staring at you, waiting for you to make them laugh. Story 72. Figuring out and managing life as an adult. As a kid, all you see is the money they have, the rules that don't apply to them but somehow to you. Eating what they want, when they want, how much they want. Driving around everywhere, no homework, no bullies, can swear at anyone and anything. Buying a house, buying multiple cars. Only one parent needs to work to make ends meet. Making friends like it's nothing. Eat a grape without paying for it. Getting called ma'am, sir. Respected in general. Man, I wish I could be a kid again with all the knowledge of my adult life so far. Story 73, surfing. Extremely underrated how difficult it is to actually surf a wave, not white water. You need physical strength and a lot of paddling strength, mobility, and movements. The pop-up, the basic for surfing, is one of the hard-eat basics. Did several sports as kid from snowboarding, skateboarding, inline skating, and just tried out surfing this year. Man, I underestimated it. Story 74, airsoft. The YouTubers make it look easy, but that's because they spend thousands on their equipment. If you're just starting off, chances are your gun will jam frequently and your goggles will fog up, which will be annoying. Also, you have to be decently physically fit to run around all day wearing everything. The boots will make your feet feel heavy, but they'll help stop your ankles from breaking. Story 75. Getting a girlfriend. I thought that all you have to do is to take a girl from the street to your home and then but whenever I try it, when I bring them home, they start saying, "Who are you? Where am I? Let go of me or I'll call the police." And whenever I try to insert my penis, they always say, "Please stop. I don't know what you want, but everything except that." And I mean, it's really hard to have with someone who has rope all over them. Does anyone have advice for me? Story 76, working on vehicles. Currently working on a 2001 Mustang that I bought, needed new rear brakes. I wouldn't call myself a mechanic, but I've worked on quite a few of my vehicles and know my way around brakes. No one thought to tell me you need a special tool for turn-down cylinders. So spent a good hour trying to figure out how to get this cylinder to go back in so I could out on the new brakes. Eventually, my uncle, who is a mechanic, walks over and says, "Are you done screwing around? You need this." He then proceeds to hand me this cube thing I'd never seen before. Didn't explain anything, just handed it to me. Another hour goes by and 3 knuckles busted later got it turned down. Story 77, as a cookery, it's hard to cook a sunny side up since the sensitive egg yolk always damage. Then the feeling you want to throw the pan with an egg into your brother's face who loll about how you crack and cook an egg and plot twist. He missed it and hit your mother instead and get to sleep outside the house for a week. Story 78. Aside from actually reading the title of this Reddit post out loud, I would say the thing that is most deceptively difficult that I've come across is living daily life. I see folk out there earning money, renting or even buying property, owning a car, having a normal life. And I'm just in awe because I've worked every day of my adult life, 15 years of that in the same industry, and I'm competent at my job, and yet I can barely accumulate enough spare funds to occasionally afford my own beer. I have no idea, less than no idea, how the hell people even deal with the paperwork necessary to operate a normal existence, leave alone actually afford to live one. Baffling and very difficult, lemon difficult. Story 79. When you get asked in a job interview, tell us a bit about yourself, and you just stare back blankly, forgetting who you even are. Or suddenly feel overwhelmed that you're at this point in your life where you're starting to question and doubt every decision you make, so you end up just bursting into tears. Story 80, surfing. Yeah, I didn't really expect it to be easy, but I didn't think it would be that difficult. You wade, swim out against a strong current, constantly getting salt water in your mouth. Then you try to stand up, but it's like trying to balance on a wobbly rope that it also constantly moving in every direction. You fall down with the instantly, get more salt water in your mouth, and then have to wade out again against the current. You do that about 10 times, and then you're utterly exhausted and dying from thirst, because at this point, not only have you been working out for about 3 hours, you've also swallowed about a pound of salt. It's definitely not the casual Friday afternoon fun time I thought it would be. Story 81, getting priorities right. I get that it isn't for everyone, but ever since I understood I wasn't doing something illegal when I didn't do my homework or something, I haven't been able to get my priorities straight. Usually, I'm just going to do stuff I want to do and procrastinate. It sounds so easy to just do the hard stuff first and work on things that are due in a short time first without thinking, I'd rather do this or that. Story 82. Waking up in the morning. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a teen, which means I have school. And then my parents always get on to me about not being able to wake up on my own. Like, how am I supposed to know when it's 7 in the morning when I'm most likely dreaming about what I want for dinner later that day? Sorry, I'm not the perfect morning person you wanted to birth, Mom. Edit, a word. Story 83. Teaching preschoolers. Most people get the impression all I do all day is finger painting and play doh, but it's quite difficult. Lesson plans and standards and curriculums. Adapting to children's different levels of learning. Working with difficult women all day that just want to start drama. It's a lot harder than it seems. Story 84. Drawing. Whenever I'm drawing, mostly at school, and someone sees, they're always like, OMG, your drawing is so good. It looks so easy. And I'm sitting there like, motherfucker. I had a mental breakdown when I was 13 because I couldn't draw how I wanted to. Spent time on working at it. And I still am trying to improve myself because whenever I look at a drawing I've made for too long, it looks like, you draw that so quickly and easily? I've been working at the skill for the past 5 years, thank you very much. Story 85. Playing an instrument even semi-well. The effort that goes into learning how to play even simple pieces is monumental. Soothing a spooked animal. Extra difficulty, how many X's the size of a house cat the creature is. Extra difficulty for claws, teeth, hooves, horns. Extra difficulty for if the animal is not being used to being handled or is not used to being handled by that person in a specific way. On TV, people just say, shh, and hold out a hand, but that can get you killed by even the gentlest horse, cow, or what have you if it is spooked. I think everyone assumes, at first blush, that leatherworking is easy, but there's a lot of nuance and lots of steps involved to everything. I'm sure there's lots more, but those are the ones that come to mind right away.